Sir, do you recall this email dated February 22nd, 2022? This is an email from you to Deputy Cox.
I do.
Sir, is it fair to say that in your view, policing should be apolitical, it should be objective, and it should view events in their context?
Yes.
In this letter, you say that law enforcement is at a critical stage in terms of its ethics, its operational independence, and its decision-making. Right at the top, sir, you agree with me?
Oh, yes, I agree.
Thank you very much.
That was an easy one.
And if we can scroll down to the second last paragraph of the second page, I'm going to read something to you. But before I do that, can you just confirm for me that it's fair to say that one of your concerns here is that the public discourse has become sensationalized and it's become inaccurate?
Yeah, so this is a large conversation. I mean, I think it's evident that I was concerned by a politicization, and I was concerned by hyperbole, and I was concerned by the affixing of labels without evidence to individuals, movements, etc. And if I can, I don't want to waste your time, but this doesn't just speak to this movement. I can give you a very specific example. Many people, law enforcement included, have an insatiable appetite. I can give you an example of person of interest profiles, etc. I've always been very hard and fast, no matter what the event is. I can use protests against Coastal GasLink, etc., that we don't do POI, person of interest profiles, unless we have reasonable grounds to suspect or reasonable grounds to believe that those individuals will be engaged in criminal activity or illegal activity that will present a public safety risk. And I believe that the public expects people like me in my position to consider those things in the course of my duties.
Your concerns aren't limited to this protest, but they do apply to this protest. Is that fair?
That's correct. Yep.
And I'm just going to read you one paragraph here, and then I'm going to ask you the question which I really want to, which is what I really want to explore. And I'm almost finished here. But second last paragraph of the second page. But now the public discourse is dominated by political figures and the media, and the commentary is providing a very different picture from what law enforcement collectively gathered. It is painting a different picture. It speaks to extremism. It offers parallels to terrorism. It speaks of sedition. This is a reference to what is going on in Ottawa. Is that right?
It's a reference to what's going on in relation to the protest writ large, not just Ottawa, but Ottawa is certainly the largest component of it.
Thank you, sir. And here's my question to you. In your view, were politicians and the media responsible for a certain amount of disinformation and misinformation with respect to these protests?
I'm just trying to articulate this properly. I was concerned by comments made publicly by public figures and in the media that I believed were not premised in fact. I would be just another person with a subjective perspective in this case, except for the fact that from my perspective, I was leading the criminal intelligence collection of information and the production of criminal intelligence in relation to these events. So I believed I was in a unique situation to understand what was transpiring. So when I read accounts that the state of Russia had something to do with it, or that this was a result of American influence, either financially or ideologically, or that Donald Trump was behind it, or that it was un-Canadian, or that the people participating were un-Canadian, and that they were not Canadian views and they were extremists, I found it to be problematic because what I ascertained from my role, which is not all-knowing, and certainly there may be information that is presented to this committee that illustrates the error of my ways, but I did not see validation for those assertions.
Found it to be problematic, and the media was part of the problem. Is that right?
I hesitate to, I don't want to say that necessarily, because the media has an important role, and I'm not trying to skirt the question. The media can provide editorials, and editorial boards can have stances. I believe that a lot of people were making assertions that weren't accurate, and if they were based in investigation and in fact, then there was information that I was not privy to, and I wondered why. And I accept that I might not be privy to it. If the Communications Security Establishment of Canada or the Canadian Security Intelligence Service or the Integrated National Security Enforcement Team has received information at a classification above my level, I accept that, and that's fine. I'm just saying that from my perspective as operational command of Hendon and that joint force operation, I did not see information that substantiated what was being said publicly and via the media. And I found that the subjective assertions sensationalized, yes, and exacerbated conflict.
Thank you. And just one last question for you when you speak of the media there, and when I read to you from your letter, you said the public discourse is dominated by the media. You're speaking about the mainstream media. Is that right?
Again, that's highly subjective. I mean, in my line of work,
so you can tell me what you meant.
Well, a lot of media that I read, I can't say that they were slanted, and I mean on both sides. I can't say that because I'd have to know subjectively what they were hoping to achieve. The person who was writing it could have objectively believed that they were speaking the truth, and I'm not in a position to know that. But I do know that there are multiple media outlets, and even the definition of media has altered substantially, and there are multiple perspectives, and some of those perspectives seem to be based in confirming a worldview as opposed to, and I'm not talking about editorials because that's different. I'm talking about news reporting. That's what's important to me, because people, including law enforcement officers, are informed by that information. And I saw that information, those assertions, foreign influenced, monies, etc., being played out by any number of people and talked about. And I would challenge that. And my point in this email was to make this point, which I believe is an ethical and moral point, and a point premised in law. You know, things like mens rea and actus reus are incredibly important in this, in determining what we see and what we base it on. So the labeling was problematic to me.
Thank you, sir. I believe I'm out of time.